In the dark, I play my dreams. Permaculture flows like sweet streams. I'm the daddy with the know-how seed. Creating the world like it's meant to be. Permaculture, P-I-M-P, I'm the king. That's love in everything. Bring a change, making it last. Join the permaculture.
Welcome to episode 350 of the Permaculture Pimpcast, where pimp stands for permaculture is my passion. The only pimpcast on planet Earth where we discuss permaculture, preparedness, and sometimes prostitutes.
Permaculture, P-I-M-P, with soulful rays. In the P-I-Pimpcast, where we find our place.
Oh yeah, episode 350. Wow, I can't believe it. Well, folks, this episode, as always, brought to you by Hickory Ridge Soap from TwoOldCrowsHomestead.com.
Turn that simp into a pimp.
Bam! Soil saviors. Yes, indeed. Saving the earth, one North Carolina farmer at a time. So, yeah, we're doing big stuff over there. Had to go on something of a hiatus and some of that work over there because we have got to get things squared away over here. And that's exactly what we've been doing from dawn till dusk every single day. Now, some of you might notice, and by the way, if you want any of that Soil Savior product, it is going to be in the description box down below. Still got a couple of boxes I need to give out, one to Renewed Homestead and one to Ken and Amy over there. So, yeah, hopefully I can get all that done in the near future. I'm just going at 100 miles an hour, just like everybody else is this time of year. All right, so here, let me just go ahead and put out this note right now. Some people that are on Permapasture's Farm channel might be wondering why this isn't broadcast over there. So right now, we're only on our Rumble channel. We are on the Permaculture Pimpcast channel and also William's channel, which is the Permaculture Consultant. You ain't going to believe this one, folks. You can't even make this one up. So we got another strike from YouTube. This will officially, technically, that I guess that would be 3, but I guess it timed out on the last one. So technically, this is now our second strike. When I had on Matt from Cultivate Elevate, there was a number of things we've talked about. And of course, all of a sudden, when he started talking about, a certain method of doing gardening where you use wires and stuff like that. I guess I can't even say that word right now. Anyway, all of a sudden we started having technical issues, which, by the way, he said he's never had before. And then after the program, all of a sudden, the very next day, I noticed something said, go ahead and check. And I went ahead and did the following morning. And lo and behold, what did I find? The video was taken down. And then Michelle, of course, found out that they took it down. And guess what the reason was for? Folks, of all the things we talk about, of the shirt William's wearing right now and the one I got on, I'm going to have to be very careful. I swear this is what they told us, and they denied our appeal. It was at the part where he started talking about the benefits of eating certain seeds and what that can do for your body. Dead serious. Deadly serious. All of a sudden, we got another strike. Do it again, and we don't have a YouTube channel. Oh, well. They're looking, son, you think they're just looking for anything to try to get us out of here, right?
Yeah, because, I mean, anything that he said could be basic, like, here's the benefits of an apple type. It's that type of information. It's not like it's like something far outfield or anything like that. I'm trying to say this carefully, but it's like they're looking for any reason to bring down Permapasture's Farm and give him any extra strikes, because, like, yeah, the reasoning doesn't make any sense. It's like it's the equivalent of saying, like, eating an apple a day keeps the doctor away, and that's what you got to strike for.
We had John Richardson on from Richardson Nutrition Center, by the way, talking about this very thing. The program, as to my understanding, is still up. We had him on talking about this very thing. So, folks, if there's anything of a medical nature, in fact, from here on out, I'm not even going to do it on my channel anymore. It'll just be on the Permaculture Pimpcast channel. So if anybody can spread the word, I'd appreciate it. But they got us in a 2-week timeout at exactly the time where I was going to be dropping a lot of videos on harvesting. We'll still put them out, but it'll just be later than we intended. But Yeah, I kid you not, folks. Literally talking about the benefits of eating certain kinds of seeds and what it can do for you. Um, Absolutely insane. And if you look at all the other strikes we've got, had everything to do, if there was a legit medical nature that has been proven over and over and over again, all of a sudden we get a strike for that. So yeah, I'm just not going to make it easy for them. So from now on, we'll just do it on the Pimpcast channel and we'll do it on a Rumble channel. But anyway, it is what it is. And I'm not going to cry over spilled milk because I have predicted this for some time now. I can get out here, stand on the street corner, wear the shirt William has on right now, but no problem with that. People
We can
get
call
out here.
Michelle Obama a dude, not get a strike, but
Yeah.
we can't talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, we can't talk about that. Anything that might heal you naturally, we cannot talk about. How insane is this world getting? And it also says a lot about this platform too. So if you can't find us here, look on Rumble because if anything, I'm just going to go full steam ahead. I'm just going to double down on it. But sadly, there's probably a number of people on the other channel wondering where we are right now. And based on the interview I did with Logan and the interview I did with Matt, a lot of people were helped by that. And that's why we're here to do this. I mean, it's not necessarily to go out there and get a bunch of million subscribers. If I wanted to, I know exactly how to do it. I mean, I would engage in some of the same gratuitous vulgarity you see in a lot of these other folks, or we would engage in the trad wife thing, which, you do that, you're definitely going to blow up. I mean, there's all kinds of things we could easily engage in, but I've never done it and we ain't going to do it. We might engage in a little bit of, silly comedy and stuff from time to time, but look, I'm not going to engage in what they want me to do. And if it means I don't have a channel, then you know what? I was looking for a job when I found this one. So it is what it is. All right. I want to give a hat tip as always to Renewed Homestead. Go check them out. Subscribe for being the moderators tonight. And you know the deal. Don't start no SH and there won't be no IT. Son, you were going to say something.
Yeah, just to reiterate, the podcast will be live streamed on my channel, the Rumble Permapastures Farm, and the YouTube Permaculture Pimpcast. So if you're used to watching on Permapastures Farm and stuff, then just subscribe to the Permaculture Pimpcast, and that's where this is going to be live streamed from now on. Which is if you listen to the audio platform like the podcast, it's under the same exact name, just on YouTube.
Yeah, Wayne J says, been watching Matt for years and he's awesome. Yes, he absolutely is. That's why I wanted to reach out to him and get him on here. Now, is everybody going to agree with everything he says? No, but what I love about the guy, and that's typical of everybody else I have on here of a medical nature. I've had people try to take me to task saying, well, this person disagreed with this other person. Look, that's that's going to happen. That is the nature of human beings. We're not always going to agree. But there are so many of these people. There are some folks that I have on that I'm bitterly opposed to some of what they talk about. But the mark of a real thinker is being able to hear any argument without necessarily agreeing or disagreeing with it. But there's some awesome stuff. What I love about Matt is that he honestly thinks outside the box. Even though there are some areas there where I'm like, I don't know where I stand on this because I haven't yet examined it. But I really applaud the fact that he is so able to think outside the box. And he's got Michelle and I asking critical questions about some of the things we once believed. So if it's like reading a book, folks, it's less important for what it says than for what it makes you think. And that's why we have these people on here. So if they disagree, okay, use your own judgment and find out, okay, is there parts of this, like we've talked about before, like in the food forest? William, you could attest to this as well. How many different inspirations do we have in a food forest? Do we subscribe to just one person's methodology?
No, there's Mark Shepard, Stefan Sokoviak, the Paul Gauchi guy, Flomaton Famous, Masanuba Fukuoka. There's a bunch of different like inspirations within just that one small little food forest right there. Not to mention the rest of the doggone farm.
Yeah, and in every single, you name pastures, how many different inspirations are there? There's at least 6 or 7 of different people there. So what you do, folks, one of the things that we do, and one thing, we used to call it the PIMP method, and it was an acronym as well. I've since kind of abandoned it, but I probably ought to come back to it. The idea is, if these people don't, everybody has a myopic view, no matter who you are, myself included. Okay. So when you're able to see it from the perspective, this is why it's so valuable to go to so many different places or to see how other people are doing the very same. This is why it's cool to see orcharding or food foresting on 10 different levels, because you're going to say, huh, I like the way this guy does his mulch over here, but I don't like the way this gal does hers. Or I love the way she's doing this, but I don't like the way he's doing this. And so what we've done is cut and pasted. If we're good at anything, it's acquiring a bunch of education, and then where they don't conflict, we take those things and combine them together. And that's exactly what we do. Yeah, Kiva Silver, Trees of Power. Yeah, got that book downstairs right now, and he's a great example of being able to, and he's also an inspiration out here as well. I mean, there are so many different ways. So folks, don't be put out by, oh, it may be a little bit confusing because you're going to have one person that says, oh, don't get in the sun. And then you're going to hear Jack Cruz, or you're going to hear Logan, and he's going to tell you, and he not only tell you, he's going to bring the receipts and show you why you should be getting sun, or why you should be getting morning sun, all those things. So we'll cover that a little bit later, because we're going to talk about how to biohack your life on the farm. Anyway, we'll get into some other things here. Sorry, didn't mean to spend so much time on that. So let me give you some of the updates that's going on around here. First time ever, sheep have been given access, and this is one of the videos I wanted to put out, but of course we're banned for now, so hopefully we'll be able to do that later. So for the first time ever, we put the sheep in the orchard and in the food forest. And folks, I'm going to go ahead and give you the cliff notes right now. I am absolutely shocked, stunned, and astonished. And you're going to see it in that video when I finally get it out. In fact, I got half of mine just to go ahead and put it on Rumble so folks can absolutely see it. The only thing we did was take cages, which we made out of woven wire fence, stuck it over all the blueberries. Everything else we let them have access to. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, shoot, man, there's a lot of poisonous stuff out there. Is it okay to put your animals in a place where there's some poisonous stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. And they would have access to toxic things in the wild as well. But as long as they have like free access, then they're not going to eat anything that's toxic to them. And if they do, they might do it in small amounts because there might be like a medicinal value to it in certain, dosages and everything. So don't panic if your animals have free choice of things and they're eating something that you were told was toxic. Unless they're rabbits, you should be pretty good. Rabbits can die for almost no reason. So yeah, when it comes to sheep and browsers and grazers and ruminants and stuff like that, then they know what's good for them. They know what's bad for them.
They do. I mean, they absolutely know, and they will partake of some of those things we call poisonous because it's the dose that matters for a lot of these guys. But folks, what they've done out there is nothing short of astonishing. I was not even going to give them access out there until next year, but I was like, man, we are so behind on so many doggone things. I'm just going to go ahead and do it because, man, I got black locusts growing. You will not believe what they did. And folks, I'm going to try to go in more detail later, but I got to put out the video so you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, sheep in the orchard, man, absolute winner. Stefan Subkoviak had done it up in his, and he'd said, man, it was the best sheep harvest he ever had. Thing is, I don't know that he restricted them to the extent that I did. I put them in very, very small paddocks. They hit it hard. And right about when they're thinking about, man, do I want to knock these cages over and get to these blueberries? I'd move them on to the next section because, yeah, I mean, you can put a cage around them, but they will knock it over if they get hungry enough. So right when they were getting to that point, I moved them on and they made it so much easier. And the cool thing about what they do in terms of trees, if you have juvenile trees or let's say trees that are about 10 feet tall or whatever, look, I don't want any branches from about 4.5 feet down anyway. So they did all that pruning for me. Now, goats, that's another matter altogether, man. They will absolutely girdle some trees. So I wouldn't think about doing it there. All right. Other things we got going on. We are getting much closer to, because they did a fair amount of damage around the mulch rings. And well, let me take that back. No, they didn't. What happened was the mulch rings were there and they were already gone because the soil has become so alive that 1 foot mulch ring that I had there, it actually became soil. So when they're tramping around doing what they do, of course, they're eating what they want, doing what they want. They created a little more damage, but check this out. The problem is the solution, because I've been wondering, okay, how do I want to go about doing some electro? I'll let you fill in the blank over there if somebody wants to write it in the chat, because I think that's one of the things that might get us banned.
It shouldn't, just because of how many just full-blown videos and stuff like that there are on that topic, but I'll type it in the chat.
Okay, so I'll say it. Electroculture. So there's a bunch of different ways to go about doing it, and I've been really, really digging deep in whenever I have a spare moment, which is never. So I've been reading as much as I can. I got a book from can't think of the guy's name, and then looking into the work of Christoflo. You heard Matt talk about it a little bit on there. I've been examining all those guys' work, and there's a bunch of different ways, whether you're using rings or whether you're using towers or a number of different ways. And I've been thinking about, and given my electrical background and almost 30 years of doing it, I speak this language more than a lot of people that are teaching it, or at least I understand it maybe to a higher degree than some others. By no means an expert, but I do understand a lot of the terminology, and I understand where maybe I want to try this technique or maybe I want to avoid it. So it gave me an opportunity with the sheep creating that level of disturbance down there to go ahead and put in some of the rings out there. Now I'm going to do it in a royal cubit, like from the Bible, a royal cubit. That's how long they're going to be. And so that's one I'm going to do there. Ben and Denise at Renewed Homestead gave me this mulberry, and I was trying to find the perfect place for it, which I did, but I'm going to be putting a ring below the soil, because you can do this in multiple applications. I'll be putting a electroculture ring below the soil about root level. I'll put one at ground level, and these are basically rings with the opening facing north. And then I'm going to put one, hang it from when it gets big enough, one hang it on a branch on the south side of the tree, and then put another one, which is cocked at a 30-degree angle with the opening facing north. I know this isn't making a whole lot of sense right now, but you can stack these techniques, and that's exactly what I want to do. So these guys have given me a great opportunity. Before I go and remulch everything down there, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to put an electroculture ring around every single thing down there and just see what happens. I mean, if it works, wonderful. If it doesn't, wonderful. But I'm going to find out for myself, because I've heard so many people debate it one way or the other, whether it works or whether it doesn't. But son, you've had some experience doing this too. And depending on where you're getting your information, it may not be the best way to go about it.
So yeah, I think there might be something with electroculture, and I haven't read that book yet that you and Mom sent me yet. But it seems like there's a very correct way to do electroculture, and every other way is wrong. Like I did a test bed with potatoes, and it was out of season. And I did one bed just soil biology, and I did another bed with electroculture. And I wanted to see which one was more effective on growing these potatoes in those beds. And then they were both bad harvests just because it was completely out of season. But there was still a very clear winner, and it was the soil biology bed versus the electroculture bed. Now with the electroculture antennas, I did every method that I could find on YouTube that didn't seem to get into some like esoteric worshiping the ether type crap. I did every antenna design that I could find on YouTube, threw it in that bed, and none of them worked. But I think it's one of those things where it's like there's a very, very correct way to do it, and then every other method is just wrong. And I'm willing to definitely try it again. I still have the copper from those last test beds.
Yeah, this book is going to lay it out a little bit better for you, maybe to understand. But I'm going to that's one thing I'm going to work on right now. So like I said, the problem is the solution. They went in there, created the disturbance I needed. And now I got myself some number 10 wire. I'm going to strip it down. I'm going to twist it. I'm going to cut it off the length of a royal cubit. And I'll have to Google what that is again. I don't recall what it is, but anyway, I'm going to be doing a lot of that. And with all the ways we're being attacked these days, y'all, I am doing everything I can. I mean, speaking of which, man, that's another video I just did. Good night. This one peach tree off of here, I'm getting about 400 pounds of peaches off of it. 400 pounds. Now, folks, if you think you can't make money farming, I want you to consider something for a minute. Okay, these are white peaches. And typically at the orchards, if I'm not mistaken, you could charge a little bit more. Now, for regular garden variety organic peaches, we're talking $6 a pound. At 400 pounds, what's that? $2,400. That's just one tree. And do you think I could call these better than organic? Yeah, I could, because folks, if you go and look at organic standards, your mind will be blown. And honestly, when you stop to think about peaches, every apple you buy in the store, by and large, has been picked a year ago. I kid you not. Peaches, okay, they're getting them out of places like Mexico and Ecuador, some of these other places. When you get those peaches in the store, they picked them at least a month early, and then they're refrigerating them, and then they're hoping that they ripen up right there in the store. Now, take the flavor of those peaches and line them up with the flavor of mine. In fact, with this peach this white peach, you can always tell when they're ready because you can smell them. They smell like peaches.
Yeah.
It's one of the, not all peaches are that way, but these ones are. And I don't recall the name of this one. Oh, it's a Majestic. Yeah, it's a Majestic. And this is my late season peach. Remember, we got early, mid, and late of every fruit we grow out here. So you're not overwhelmed. I mean, think about this. Now, what if I planted nothing but Majestics out here and I got 400 pounds off of one tree? You think I got a problem all of a sudden? Because I'm having a problem right now putting these up. And yeah, it's, it can be a problem. So son, you've talked extensively about harvests, and it isn't necessarily maintaining the garden as much as it is the harvest. Am I right?
It's the yield, it's the overall yield, like the amount of calories you put into a system, and then you take the amount of calories you get out of it, you subtract the two, and then that's the overall yield of the system. So like I bring up the classic Jeff Lawton example where you can give it 100% effort. The coffee trees, 100% effort, get 100% yield from those coffee trees, or 100%, harvest from those coffee trees, or you can increase your yield by planting double the trees, give them absolutely no maintenance, no attention, and get 50% of the yield, or 50% of the harvest of that coffee tree. Yeah, you can also do, you were saying better than organic. I think that's like a brand, better than organic. So you might not be able to use that, but you could do the Jeff Lawton term, which is ecosystemically grown, which he had all the blue hairs over in Australia buying stuff from his daughter at the farmer's market because he put down ecosystemically grown, and it stood out compared to everybody else who was advertising like organic produce and whatnot.
Yeah, if people knew the full extent of what they're allowed to call organic, you would rethink it, folks. These trees get nothing but biology. That is it. And that goes for everything else we have around here. No 7 dust, no none of that garbage. So, yeah, and I'm trying to eat more in season with things. But, yeah, good luck on eating 400 pounds of peaches. So, yeah, we got some other things going on around here too. Folks, one of the things that we're doing as well is when you farm, I don't know of any farm that's actually a working farm that is neat. So don't be, so many people are so conscious about, well, I don't want anybody over because if they see all this junk laying around, look, that's a clear indication that you're doing something. I know of one person who has a neat farm that is actually doing something. That's Jason from Sow the Land. He's the only one I know that has a neat farm. And it is one of the things, I mean, I admire so many things about Jason, but the thing I admire most is I've never seen a more squared away, organized person in my life. Not even close. I haven't even seen a close second. And it's one of those things where I wish I could do more of. So, you get to that point where you're just tired of looking at it and it just becomes a pain. You got so many things going on. So we've taken that and we're doing a video. We're doing we're actually taking our own advice. So we're taking piece by piece of this place and we're cleaning it up. So we started with the back. Well, we started with the front, then we started with the back. Now we're doing the other part of the place. And then from there, folks, don't try to do it all at once or one day. If you're like me and you hate this more than anything, the only thing I hate more than cleaning up stuff is painting. Okay. So when you have to do these things that you just absolutely, I love everything I have to do on the farm. There's not one task, you name it, I don't mind doing it. When there's things that I absolutely hate, I do them. And hate is a word I don't use often. But when I say the word hate, folks, I mean it. When I hate doing certain things, I'll give myself a time limit. I'll be like, okay, 30 minutes. This is all I'm going to allocate. And I'll do it for 30-minute increments. I can do anything for 30 minutes. I'll do it for 30 minutes and then I'll pick it back up tomorrow. And then, or maybe an hour, or maybe Michelle gets out there with me and we do an hour. So when you have those really nasty, ugly tasks that you hate to do, you can either employ your animals or you break it down in bite-sized pieces that make sense. And for me, that's all I can do before I'm ready to just, before I'm tapping out. So that's exactly what we're doing right now. So folks, I don't know of anybody out there who has, who keeps, and even Joel Salatin, man, everybody has, you have junk piles on a farm because you need that stuff from time to time. And the passersby out there don't necessarily know that, but I got news for you. Every farm out there has a junk pile, son. Am I wrong?
Nope. Every single homestead I have ever been to, unless it was raw land, every single one of them had a junk pile, and every single person was self-conscious about their junk pile. And every single time I tell them, hey, this is normal. Every homestead, every farm has a junk pile. It's never as clean as you wanted it to be. It's never as organized as you want it to be. Just, it's fine. You don't have to be embarrassed about it. It's like, yeah, it's like a little calling card for homesteaders.
Yeah, it is.
And some homesteaders they know the value in the junk pile. Like I've seen some junk piles that I've been envious of, believe it or not.
Yeah, but everybody's self-conscious about it, and myself included from time to time. So just don't be. If you're not having somebody over because you're worried about this junk or that junk or whatever, it's usually a clear indication that you're doing something. It really is. So, and it's not always going to be the way you want it. All right, so some other things over here. I'm kind of hogging the show here. We got a potato harvest that needs to get out of there. We'll get on that as soon as we can. The chickens were with the bees the other day, and it's what I call the classic commensal relationship. So the bees are absolutely helped by the chickens, but the bees don't harm the chickens. So the chickens take out the mites and whatever else may want to mess with the bees, and chickens will not eat bees. In fact, you take a whole hive of dead bees, put them out there with some chickens, they will not eat them. Guarantee it. They'll look at them and be like, okay, sorry you bit the dust, but hey, that's it. So finally, I think like so many other people, as I go from Twitter from time to time, it seems like the whole country is nonstop chemtrailed right now. And people are starting to ask questions. So maybe that's a good thing. It's been raining every single day here, and it's getting to the point where I'm not even sure what real weather is supposed to look like anymore. It's gotten so bad in terms of, it's just gotten so bad in terms of how much they're dumping from the sky. And William, your mom is, she's been really doing a deep dive on what exactly is in this stuff. And a lot of it is things are getting out of coal-fired powerhouses. So coal ash and stuff like that, they're literally dropping it from the sky. And you can't, and people are going to tell you this is jet exhaust. Absolutely not. It is a sham. All right, Sam. So what's happening on your end?
I honestly don't have much like farm news. It's been much more the same, just constant computer work, maintenance, trying to catch up from the last time I was out of town, preparing to go out of town again. I do have an announcement. Like if you live between Texas and Idaho and you were thinking about getting a consultation, let me know because I'll be going that direction before too long. Also preparing some things for Midwest Preparedness Conference. I want to get some of those like almost story books, like the stories books, as like the ones that teach you how to do something and it teaches you kind of like in a succinct way. I do want to get some of those squared away before Midwest Preparedness. I also want to order some of Eric's shirts before Midwest Preparedness and see if I can get some sold out there for those of you that want some of these types of shirts. Yeah, it's just been more of the same. A whole lot of just crappy computer work. Finally got the chalkboard squared away for the permaculture design course. I'm going to record that here soon. I had to sand away at first I just painted chalkboard paint over the top of it. And then there was too much texture from the drywalling, like the mud and everything. So I had to go back and then sand it down smooth and then repainted it. I finally got that all squared away today. You were talking about painting earlier. I can't stand painting either, so that was a very painful task for me to do. And then I'm editing a video that I recorded before I left for Kentucky Sustainable Living, talking about like the focus being soil biology, and then showing like a bunch of tomatoes that I should have blight and mildew and all that kind of pest pressure and all that kind of stuff, but I don't because of the soil biology, and then get a potato harvest that was 100% completely neglected. And a little update on the demonstration site garden. I have squash, zucchini, pumpkins, watermelons, all kinds of things growing out there, sweet potatoes growing out there, all of it without any maintenance at all. I don't go out there and water. We have been getting an unusual amount of water for July and August so far. There's more of that weird weather phenomena stuff that's going on. But that's the only form of water that it's been receiving. Now, in the comment section, we have had a few questions pop up. If you want to handle these real quick, Dad, I'll read them off for you. There's nothing like a homegrown peach. My 2 trees didn't produce any flowers this year, and I think it's because I ran my chicken tractors right next to them. Maybe too much nitrogen.
I doubt it.
Yeah. There seems to be a tree cycle, like a 4-year tree cycle, where you have 1 really crappy year, 2 that are decent, and then your 4th one will be like a bumper crop. That might be it.
Or it could have been. It could have been. It's hard to say without actually seeing it, but a lot of times when you have an issue like that, it could have been that they were over pollinated the year before. And if that happens, that's why Stefan Subkowiak got rid of all of his bees. Is that when you run a commercial orchard or any kind of orchard like that, when you over pollinate, like for example, to getting 400 pounds off this one tree, I probably won't get anywhere near that much next year. That is the double-edged sword of having bees. When you over pollinate a tree one year, you won't get anything the next year. It could be in the next 3 years. It could be. So what he selected to do, and what I could do, is let my natural pollinators go ahead and do all that work for me. I could absolutely do that because we got butterflies. I know a lot of people are not seeing insects all over the world right now. I'm seeing it, especially in places like England. A whole lot of people aren't seeing pollinators, but on this farm, we are seeing them like, and I think a lot of it has to do with not using the weed eater. So, yeah, it's hard to say for sure without seeing it, but I would guess right off the bat, if you were getting peaches off of it before and you're not now, it might have been over pollinated the previous year.
Next one from Necro Kitty. Do you think copper plating my garden tools would protect my tools and soil from rust? Now, you have more information with the copper tools than I do.
Yeah, that's okay. So what you want to think about when it comes to copper, and when you look at the work of Victor Schauberger, okay, absolute genius that's been erased from history. He found out that just by using copper tools, real copper, and overplating them with copper, I don't think is the answer because you're going to have an alloy then. But I'm talking 100% copper. They're going to have to be robust because it is copper. You'll find out a couple of things. Number one, you can actually work the soil so much easier with copper as opposed to steel or any other method. So copper, or if you use wooden tools, some people do that as well. You'll find out you'll see a lot of the same benefits. The rust, according to some, is what you want to try to keep out of your garden. The ferric oxide, I don't know where I stand on that sort of thing, but I have yet to. I'm actually looking at some copper tools right now to see about ordering some before I tell everybody else about it. But yes, I'm aware of the theory, and I don't think copper plating is the answer. I think you want to get legit 100% copper, which right now, considering the tariffs, might be quite expensive.
Yeah. Got one from Kim Ivy. How high should I trim grass with the weed eater? I don't have animals. So I'm guessing you mean from the perspective of like you're trying to rotationally graze your grass or build that soil biology, get your grass, keep your grass in a vegetative state for an extended period of time in preparation for animals potentially.
See, that all depends on the grass you have, but generally, I would highly recommend you check out Jim Garish's book called Kick the Hay Habit because he addresses that very thing. And the thing about here, most of us that have grown up in cities or somewhere thereabout, we think our grass should be really no higher than a few inches. That is the worst thing in the world for your soil biology. They are down there getting Kentucky fried. Nowhere in nature do you see that. So if nothing else, depending on the grasses you have, if you do nothing but knock off the seed heads, that's cool. But I'm going to tell you something. And I think I talked about it in the last program or maybe the one prior to it. I was talking about those pollinators a minute ago. Folks, I'm telling you right now, we got 17 gallons of honey out of the hives mid-season. That's usually what we get in the entire season. About 20 gallons is what we get in the entire season. We got 17 gallons mid-season. And the only thing I've changed is not using the weed eater at all, except in the areas where I can't run the animals. Because what you're going to find out is that when you're out there with a weed eater and indiscriminately knocking all these other things out, you're knocking out food for your pollinators. You're knocking off all these flowers that some people might call weeds. You're knocking those off, and now your pollinators aren't getting fed. Now, I quit doing that completely, except in the areas where it's going to be a nuisance or a nightmare to get the sheep in there, up near the house or places like that, down the center of the driveway or something like that. That's the only places I'm using a weed eater these days. Now, there are going to be times where I got to knock out some silvergrass, but guess what? There's not any pollinators in there anyway. But I generally these days, my grass, you will never see it. And depending on the time of year, now, if it's winter, if it's cold season grasses, they could be as tall as 4 feet. I'm dead serious. They could be as tall as 4 feet around here. Sheep will take care of that for me. Warm season grasses, they're going to be lower and they're going to be at around 1.5 to 2 feet tall. But nowhere, I will never let them get lower than that, because once you start baking, and this is where Jim Garrish is so good at explaining, is that once you get below a certain point, now all of a sudden your soil temperatures are way higher than they ever should be. So yeah, you want to go a lot higher than you think you're supposed to. I wouldn't go less than a foot.
And then the last one we got up here is from Denise. She's saying, y'all are getting more rain there and it's completely passing us. It's weird. We normally get more rain than you do. It's been frustratingly dry here, which I can definitely attest to that. Ben and Denise live up in Burnsville, and there have been plenty of times where Burnsville is absolutely pouring and Mars Hill's getting basically nothing. I've also seen in the winter people driving down from Burnsville with snow-covered cars, and it's sunny in Mars Hill too.
Yeah.
And no snow.
Yeah, when you get in these mountains, you're always going to have weird microclimates. But she has a good point, is that historically, since we've all been here and we've lived here about the same time, they usually get the mountain share of the lion's share of the rain, and we get far less. Now, there's always this crazy phenomenon. If you drive down the road that I live on, you can go not even an eighth of a mile down the road, and you'll see where all the snow begins. Like in the winter, you'll see snow from there all the way out, but we won't have it this way. So yeah, some of this is partially microclimates. Some of it, I believe, is engineering. And folks, look, I talked to Dane Wigington the other day. In fact, I need to call him back. Actually, he sent me a message the other night telling me about some stuff. Some people with a documentary wanted to interview me or something. I'm not really interested in that sort of thing, depending on what they want to talk about. But anyway, Dane was getting a hold of me about something. And then when I spoke to him the other night, folks, there's a lot of weird stuff going on. In fact, every single time, let's say you do see clouds and you're wondering, okay, are these legit? Look, if you see a bunch of crazy waves in those clouds, those are the next rad radar towers that are playing games with your weather. That's exactly what they're doing. And it has effects on you and me as well. So we're all being affected by this. The bees are being affected by this. This is part of why I'm steering more into electroculture and some other things that I actually need to examine a little bit more, simply because we have got to beat back all of these deleterious effects on our health, thanks to these lunatics out there who think, I mean, they're doing things that are absolutely unbelievable. And you can't get most people to even take a second look at it, even though it's painfully obvious out there.
Yeah. Last one. Well, Travis Lauser, he just said, I'm assuming that's how you pronounce your last name. He said, what is your take on this new hurricane? And I'm assuming You just kind of covered it right there.
Well,
It's controlled, next rad, all that.
well, I don't know yet. I don't know yet. I rely on some people out there like Ariana Masters. She's a friend of mine. Obviously Dane Wigington, and there's a number of others out there that are doing good work, and it's work that goes unsung. This is the kind of work out there that these people, Dane was laughed at for 25 years before people started waking up. I mean, man, I don't even know what you do with that. I mean, you talk about a level of perseverance, and this guy, Dane and I are friends, man. And when you talk to him, man, you realize just how passionate he is about. This is why he always says, "I'll never leave my post," meaning that he feels so tied to the land where he is that he will literally die on that hill before he leaves it. So there's going back to your question, though. I hear people, there are grumblings out there. Now, hurricanes do happen. I'm not going to say they don't. But when you see unbelievable things where, like the one that hit Western North Carolina, jumps over all that land, doesn't do anything, and decides to come alive over the mountains of Western North Carolina and Tennessee, East Tennessee, are you kidding me? It doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. And then when we also have a radar signature of exactly the same time, where they got these NextRad radar towers literally staring. This happened. Look, you can go back and even watch it on Hurricane Harvey. They did the same thing back then. The one, Hurricane Maria, the one that hit Puerto Rico. Folks, the list is long. In fact, there's not a one of them as of late that doesn't, where there's not some monkey business going on. I mean, it's going to be crazy, and we're getting into hurricane season. So I'm just going to say, hold on to your hat right now. But folks, we're finding out that even some of the people that are most prepared in some of these spots, really, at the end of the day, like Pinball Preparedness once said, man, what do you do? I mean, when you've done everything right, and all of a sudden this is where you are. So, yeah.
Yeah, and just a heads up, I think the round 2 is coming this fall for that part of Western North Carolina, because they didn't have the effect that they wanted to. They probably didn't expect everybody to. This is my prediction. They didn't expect everybody to come in and help Western North Carolina in the way that they did. If you look at the government aid that occurred in Western North Carolina, it was next to nothing. And if you look at all the private aid that was provided in North Carolina, that's where all of the renovation and the rebuilding occurred, was from the private benefactors and stuff. Then they hit them with a wildfire attempts. They didn't take off the way they anticipated, or the way they expected. So they're going to come back with round 2, and I think they're going to try this fall. They're pre-saturating the ground right now. This is supposed to be one of your driest months, but it's not. It's raining every day. They're getting the ground nice and saturated up to holding levels, and then they're going to do the same thing this fall. I think that's my prediction. That's what it looks like. But the difference is that look at how many different distractions that we have going on all at the same time this time, that we didn't have last year. Like, what is it? Is FEMA here, or is it gone? I don't really know. They weren't doing much to begin with. But you look at the war in the Middle East, the war over in Russia and Ukraine, the ice stuff, all these different distractions. I wouldn't be surprised if something pops off before this hurricane this time, just to ensure that there's far less people coming to help this time. And then also look at, like, inflation's done nothing but go up. Things are more expensive than they were just even last year. So that's my prediction.
Hold on, son. Are you sure about that? Because Trump got on there the other day and told us that inflation is absolutely. Hold on. That can't be true, man. He told us inflation is flat. Look, man, I know, when we're feeling it, when we have, 6 freezers full of meat. Okay. I don't have to go to the store and buy meat. Okay. We got plenty of vegetables this time of year. So we don't have to go to the store that much in terms of food, but we got to go for other things. I mean, right now, this time of year, the only thing we need to go to the store for is toilet paper and aluminum foil. And I'm joking about the aluminum foil. I know people like, I use aluminum foil. Believe it or not, it has a really good capability when it comes to shielding. That's a whole nother program altogether. But anyway, I think you get the point. When I go in there and let's say I want to buy a bag of chips, now I don't just eat any chips, and like or granola. okay, I can make granola, but I ain't got the time to make granola. But there's this one brand I like that we sent a bunch of it to my grandbaby, and
she likes it too.
To me, do you like it?
Oh yeah, it's good, but yeah, no, I don't. I try to stay out of it so June can have it because she likes her granola. That's for sure.
So this granola, it's the only one I like out there because number one, there's no junk in it, there's no GMO in it, there's no gluten in it, and they hide a lot of that garbage in there. There's none of that stuff in it, and so I go to buy these things, man. And when I go in there and the price for this same stuff that I bought for, now it's already expensive to begin with. And then I go in there and I'm like, hold up. You mean this thing went up another $2? How'd this happen? Or down at the local bakery, there's a bakery in town. In fact, the only bakery that I know of where you can get legit sourdough bread, believe it or not, is in this town. And outside of the bread Michelle makes, her sourdough or the einkorn she makes, this is the only bread I've eaten. A lot of people are calling this stuff sourdough, but this is the only sourdough that I could eat that I know is legit sourdough because I don't have a reaction to it. But anyway, I go in there and I stop in there on Sunday and I was like, okay, I got all these tomatoes, man. I got to eat these things up. So I'm like, okay, I'll make some BLTs out of it. And so I go in there and go get a loaf of bread. I caught them about when they were closing. And she threw 2 loaves in there of this jalapeno sourdough. She's like, all I got is jalapeno. I'm like, okay, that's a good thing. She's like, well, most people don't want to eat this. I'm like, trust me, I'm going to put a hurt on this. She threw 2 of them in there. She says, and I think it was $8. I said, man, I guess the price went down, huh? She said, no, I only charged you for 1. I was like, what? It was 8 and change for a loaf of sourdough bread. And I'm like, okay, man, I understand everybody's, I mean, this is, when I say mom and pop, folks, this is about as mom and pop as it gets. And people are struggling more than ever out there. So I don't know, like you said, son, if we have another calamity around here or anywhere else, I just don't know that people have the bandwidth or the physical or the financial means to be able to do it. But Denise wrote on here a minute ago that honeybees are attacking people. I don't know where I heard that before elsewhere too. It may have been on Twitter, but I didn't pay attention to where it was. And they're not Africanized. Yeah, it says several reports all around the world of honeybees aggressively attacking people, not Africanized bees, but honeybees. I have no doubt that man's interference is doing something with it. Yeah, because look, there is nothing more sensitive to what's going on around here. And I think that's why so many bees are dying right now around here. I wonder if we are, because we don't have any 5G towers anywhere near us. Maybe that's why we're lucky in that regard. Or, you know what? I pray that the Lord makes this place Goshen in the middle of Egypt. So that's where I'm going to say it's coming from. But anyway, everybody else around us has lost pretty much all their bees. And this isn't a place where it's not like you're in the middle of Kansas and they're dropping poison everywhere. Okay. You don't have that around here. Now you do have cornfields down the way, and who even knows but that's down the way from me. That's not even close. So, and plus the bees have enough right here. Bees will they're not going to go 2 miles away if they can get something local. Okay. They're efficient. Yeah. So when these things are happening, I have no doubt that it's like, it could be another MK Ultra, but in, bee edition, So, somebody else is saying wasps are so invasive this year. You know what? If you look at wasps the way I do, 9 times out of 10, they don't mess with you unless you mess with them. And these parasitic wasps, man, it's like something straight out of Aliens. They do some really awesome stuff.
Yeah. So my parasitic wasps have gone way down this year. Way less than what they were last year for sure.
Yeah, David Zimmerman saying, "Look, I had another show planned, but I think we'll just keep on with the Q&A right here because I'd be shortchanging you if I tried to do it right now. So I didn't realize we'd be so long in the tooth. But you know what? Some of these are usually our best shows when we sit here and we just kind of riff and we all work on one another." He said, "If we had actual proof that they're son, you're going to have to read this. It's touch and go."
Yeah, I got you. If we had actual proof that would hold up in international court, wouldn't retribution be self-defense?"
Man, well, I like the way you roll, David. Yeah.
Yeah, here it is.
I don't know what you're looking for, son.
It's so doggone hard to see in these red glasses.
We'll get
But
used
yeah,
to it.
I've got a packet of proof that yes, they are absolutely doing this. It's a grant offer for the University of Chicago. I have actual proof that they are doing this, that they have been doing this, and then they're testing new chemicals in the future. So yeah, we have absolute proof that they're doing this. And then look at all of the. I always love bringing this up because Dane Wigington has done such a fantastic job with accumulating the information. But if you go to geoengineeringwatch.org, you can see all of the patents, all of the agreements, all of the treaties and stuff like that talking about, and then also like the methods of application. And that's what this packet here is too, is like a revision of spraying the particles, so you get a more even dispersion in the atmosphere and have less of those particles falling down to the ground, showing up on people's nighttime cameras and whatnot. Like, and then they also admit that there's going to be negative side effects and show remediation steps for those negative side effects for this new chemical that they're going to be spraying. It's a variation of sulfur. I would need like, go ahead.
It's a good thing you can't buy Stinger missiles off the shelf, because honestly, there'd be a whole lot of those planes hitting the ground. I think it's just, you have everybody, and don't give me this garbage. Oh, Trump doesn't know. Well, then that means if he doesn't know, that means he's incompetent and blind. Because when he was here in Western North Carolina, and he wouldn't let a single one of those people, or his minders wouldn't let them come anywhere. They bust in people from another place altogether. He was in Swannanoa, but they wouldn't let anybody from Swannanoa. When they found out what they were going to ask, all these people were going to say, hey, this is weather manipulation. All of them. They wouldn't let a single person from Swannanoa that had that message go anywhere near that microphone. Yeah, Trump knows all about this stuff. And look, y'all, you can believe what you want, but I'm 100% convinced he is absolutely part of it. I'll tell you what, son, let me go ahead and hit some of this other stuff, and then we'll go to Eric. And then we'll come back to the questions. Redemption Shield, 10% off with promo code PERMA. Y'all know me. I'm G'd up from the feet up, and that means grounded. If you want any of their grounding devices over there, in fact, I just ordered like 4 more mats. And I'm now doing something. Instead of knowing what I know about EMF, I'm now redoing everything around here, and I'm putting around the local window, and I'm grounding each mat to its own ground outside instead of putting it into. I'm just worried about all the junk that's coming across. Even though in my house I have it all mitigated, I have serious EMF protection around here in ways you would not believe. But some of that stuff could still bleed through. So I'm now taking all these mats and I'm grounding them in a different way. So they sell these long cords with its own little ground rod that you can put out the window. And I'm going to recommend that you go that way, especially if you're doing your bed or something like that. That's going to be the best way to go about it. Because with all this junk coming down these power lines, that's another way. With these smart meters, who even knows what kind of buzz you're getting through the night. So, yeah. So I just spent a lot of money over there trying to redo some of the stuff here. Anyway, 10% off with promo code PERMA. Wave Watch, WAV. We got a link for it down below. Billy 100 will get you $100 off of that watch. Got one for my daughter-in-law, and she's using it effectively. Michelle uses it here. I'm using it, and that thing is the shiznit. So Billy 100 will get you $100 off. And by the way, somebody, I don't know, I can't remember who asked, but they were wondering if that thing gave off an EMF. I used my EMF meter, and I put that thing on I tested that watch 30 ways to Sunday. It gives off no electrical signal whatsoever. All it's giving off is sound pulses, which is exactly what it's supposed to do. But I wanted to make absolutely sure that thing was not putting off any EMF pulses, and it doesn't. And then finally, East Tennessee Homestead Alliance Festival is coming up September 12th and 13th. That's going to be in Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm going to be there, and hope to see a lot of you there. But before we get back to the Q&A, which apparently this show has turned into, let's go to my man, Eric Sider.
Hey, Eric Sider here with your Pimpcast tip of the day. Today's tip, Occam's razor. If the simplest explanation with the fewest assumptions is usually the best one when faced with competing hypotheses, it certainly seems like what were once dismissed as crackpot conspiracy theories are actually the most sensible explanation. For example, how do we explain the United States government's inexplicable, continued blind support for Israel, despite Israel committing genocide and ethnic cleansing of Gaza, live streamed 24/7 to the entire world. The only thing that connects all the dots and makes any sense of any of this, outside of the fact that psychopaths run the world and the biggest psychopaths seem to be in charge of Israel, is that Israel actually controls the United States and most of the world through a child sex blackmail operation on Epstein Island. I honestly can't think of any other explanation. Bribery can only get you so far. Fear of being exposed as a pedophile explains how Ted Cruz, a U.S. senator from Texas, openly states that support for Israel is his #1 priority. You can find me on YouTube and Instagram at Eric Sider. If you're in need of permaculture t-shirts or remote permaculture consultation and design, head over to ericsider.com. And for those in the Sacramento area, check out my permaculture community group, permaculturefairoaks.org.
That's my dog right there. And to quote Denise from Renewed Homestead, amen, Eric, in big capital letters. That's what I'm talking about. Nobody wants to talk about this stuff. And it's honestly, folks, I have got to titrate the amount of times I look at this. I can't even believe this is happening on my watch. I can't believe it's happening on your watch. And because of the evangelical Schofield dispensationalists out there, which, by the way, you've been sold a lie. I used to believe it. I used to believe all this stuff. I was taught it, brought up in it. And it was all a manufactured lie from the word go. In fact, the people, most of which over there, and I'll bring the evidence next week. I'll tell you the exact Jewish scientists that determined that the people over there calling themselves the descendants of Abraham, first of all, have no Abrahamic blood at all. None of them. Almost none of them. In fact, when they did the testing back in, I want to say 01 and 09, 2001, 2009, they found out that the Palestinians had more Abrahamic blood than the people calling themselves Jews. Most of them, Netanyahu's name is not even Netanyahu. It's Milkowski, Benjamin Milkowski, but he came up with Netanyahu to make himself sound more Jewish. Okay. He's from Poland. And the one before him, I can't remember his name as well. Another Polish name. So, folks, we're being sold, and we're seeing genocide unfold right before our eyes. And we have such a snooky, stupid public that they don't even care. I mean, son, your shirt says it all right there. It's right there. And if you think what's happening over there is not about to happen here, if you don't stand up and start kicking some ass, folks, I don't know what to tell you. Because honestly, I'm getting to the point where it is an embarrassment to be an American, to call myself an American, or at least one of the Ted Cruz variety. Sorry, y'all, I don't mean to lose my cool right there, but honestly, what's happening over there, it's tearing the guts out of me every time I think about it. When I see these little kids over there, and then you see pastors in the pulpit like that idiot Greg Locke. You know, I wrote on his Twitter page the last time he wrote some idiotic nonsense out there. I said, people only sell their souls once, but for somehow, some way, you seem to be on a subscription plan. I never seen anything like it. I don't even know what world I'm living in right now. You have Jack Cruz just dropped a bomb today where all the evidence shows that that almost nobody died of COVID, that it was a jab that everybody died from. In fact, part of the Biohack special that I was going to talk about today, folks, when you do a little bit of math here, what if I told you that all of the Americans that have died in combat, in warfare, since the American Revolution, add them all up. In fact, if you were to take the Civil War alone, the 620-some thousand that died in the Civil War alone, that exceeds the death of all the other wars that America's been involved in combined, okay? Add all those wars up: Civil War, Revolutionary War, Vietnam, all the other manufactured BS wars, okay? Add them all up. We have about 1.3 to 1.4 million Americans dead in all those conflicts combined. Dr. Peter McCullough dropped the other day that 1.75 million Americans are dead, graveyard dead, because of this jab. 1.75. That's more than all of the people that have died in these wars combined, and nobody gives a damn. Nobody cares. So I guess if we don't even care about that, I mean, who's going to give a fat rat about who's dying over there in Palestine right now? Because frankly, honestly, it is starting to become an embarrassment to say I was ever a soldier. It really is. It's getting to that point, and folks, honestly, it's all I can do to keep it together these days. When I think about these kids, the thing is, we feel we're so insulated here that this can't happen here. Got news for you. It's the only way that America's ever going to wake up. Anyway, I'll just go ahead and
Jeremiah, reading the book of Jeremiah, it's almost like we've surpassed what Jeremiah is rebuking the Israelites for back then.
Yes.
It's like, how have we gotten this far and not like, there has to be judgment. There has to be judgment. It has to be coming soon. And you know, I'm to the point where I just can't wait for it now. Like, I can't wait for that judgment period. I know it's going to be rough, and I know it's going to suck for a lot of people, but it's going to be the end of evil. It's going to be the end of the needless suffering of these children.
Yeah, I'm glad Eric brought that up. I mean, hey Matthew, I'm not sure what he said, what the NIH posted. I'm not sure. You'll have to list that in here. And then Renewed Homestead, yes, bread and circuses. You know what? They knew a long time ago, since Alexander the Great, you only needed three things to subjugate a population: food, entertainment, and a reasonable expectation of security. Do you think that applies here in the United States of amnesia? It absolutely does. We know the price of everything and the value of nothing. That's the state we live in right now. And no matter how dreadful the news is and what's being done in our names, nobody cares. And sadly, some of the group that seems least willing to examine what the truth is out there are the baby boomers. Now, I'm not saying all of them, because there are some in that generation that are wide awake. But by and large, most of them aren't. And in fact, my generation, I'm not sure how many of those people are even awake or even care. They're too busy. I'm going to the lake this weekend, or whatever the case may be. But this is all being done in our names. And yes, the Lord must be long suffering, because I don't even, when the history books are written, when the honest history books are written, they're going to realize, I mean, we have 900 military bases in 130 countries. Do you think that makes us an empire? Well, history does not long entrust power to people that live with this level of apathy, indifference. And, you know, and what I fear is knowing that we have a just God, because honestly, the chickens have got to come home to roost on something like this, because it's not just Israel doing it. I mean, Eric pointed out Milkowski, you know, AKA Netanyahu. He pointed him out, but honestly, who's enabling him? Look where they go into session in Congress. They go into a leave session. And where do they all go? What, do they go over there to go get paid personally? They went to go get their checks, and they're all bowing at the Wailing Wall, which, by the way, was not Solomon's temple. Okay? That's the remnants, possibly. Remember, Jesus said there would not be one stone left upon another. That ain't it. It's an old Roman fort is what's there. And in fact, if you read some of the I read a recent book, and it was a contemporary. It was written in 1805, and it was called The Destruction of Jerusalem. A short book, but very much to the point. And what he did in this point was take the people of Philo and Josephus and a number of others, Josephus being one of the ones that actually witnessed, you know, the destruction of Jerusalem. He had no idea what Jesus said, but he confirmed every bit of it, that they literally, the Romans went through with plows, tore up everything down to the very foundations. In fact, he wrote that you would not even know that there was ever a city by the time they were done with it. But that Wailing Wall is supposed to be the remnants of the temple. No, folks, it's just your latest lie. Just like those people over there who are claiming to be Read what Revelation says. They say they are Jews, but are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. I don't know how you do this abject slaughter. And you got you know who the mouthpieces are. Just go to Twitter. You'll see them. Larry Loomer and all the others like him over there that are playing cover for these people. Ted Cruz over there. I mean, just absolute. Sorry, folks. I didn't mean to go so sideways here, but yeah. Is not anything to add here? I probably ought to put some bookends on this.
Matthew Wood says, which judgment are you referring to? And the one I was referring to was the one chronologically given within Revelation. That's the judgment I'm looking forward to and I'm waiting for.
Yeah, well, we talked about in terms of Jeremiah. I mean, you know, he was sitting there telling everybody, hey, it's going down.
Yeah.
It's going down. And nobody wanted to believe him. It's going down. And they laughed him to scorn. You know, they didn't want anything to do with it.
Sawed him in half upside down with a wooden sword.
Boy, yeah, you know, that wasn't cool.
Well, he actually was sent visions, so he was what did they remark that he was smiling the whole time? He was sent visions. Yeah, so he didn't even feel the pain.
Yeah, but when you get down, well, we're going to be feeling the pain. And honestly, if you know what these dispensationalists tell us that, oh, you bless Israel, you'll be blessed. Does this seem like a blessing to anybody out there? Is what you're experiencing right now feel like a blessing? No.
It's because they're not blessing. They're not blessing Israel. They have a false definition of what Israel is. Israel isn't those Eastern Europeans down in the Middle East right now. That's not who Israel is. Israel is the ones who are grafted in, or the ones that are still like that have accepted Messiah on the original tree. Like, that's who Israel is. You're given definition within Scripture. That's who Israel is. It's not. And then also people take that one verse where like those who bless
Genesis 12:3.
Yeah, Genesis 12:3. That's a singular statement. That is talking about Abraham and the seed that will come later, the Messiah. That's who that is referring to. It's not every descendant of Abraham ever. Otherwise, who would you be able to? At this point, everybody at least has some speck of Abrahamic blood. Just given the amount of generations that we have, the diasporas that have occurred, everybody has at least some speck of Abrahamic blood. Otherwise, you couldn't say anything bad about anybody if that was the case.
Yeah. And I mean, when you get down to brass tacks on all this stuff, everything I've examined for myself in history, and I'm talking everything that I personally looked into, whatever the official story was, has turned out to be a manufactured lie. And I mean, the only thing that I'm 100% sure about is Jesus is exactly who he said he was. Everything else has been a manufactured lie in terms of the history that we've been told. And I can prove it. I mean, if anybody ever wants to compare brain pans on this, I might just shock you with the 180 degrees. I mean, you pick a person in history that they've lauded as wonderful. Not all of them, but most of them. Most of them are not at all what they said they were. And the proof is out there, but you're never going to get it from your classrooms. It's never going to happen that way. You're going to have to become autodidacts out there, folks. And that means a self-taught person. You're going to have to, you will have a better than PhD understanding. In fact, if you want to know the perfect illustration of what I'm talking about right now, when I had on Logan the other day, if you listen to his podcast, this is a guy who is a farmer, runs a farmer's market, and he is the classic definition of an autodidact when it comes to health. And when you hear him with PhDs on there, and he is schooling them, but he does it politely, he is absolutely schooling them on circadian health, things that they don't know, things that they were just taught through books that they were learning, and he's mopping the floor with them. A guy with a high school understanding, and he is mopping the floor with these so-called PhDs who are, and he's not being a jerk about it. He's just, if you're paying attention and you listen, you'll know what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is, if you go out there, just pick whatever it is you want to know about, electroculture, for example. Go out there, you go become the subject matter expert on it. You want to become an expert in a certain area of history. What really happened in the Civil War? Or what really happened in World War I? Go check out the work of people like Anthony Sutton. And then you find out, hold on, you mean to tell me that all those Nazi tanks had Ford engines in them? Hold up, really? Yeah, or most of the German Luftwaffe had, they had Mercedes engines in them, but there was also a fair number of them that had Ford engines in them as well. Is there a wonder why none of the Ford factories were bombed during World War II? The ones that were over in Germany? Don't know about that? Yeah, so that's the same thing that's happened with this history when it comes to what's happened in the Middle East.
Everybody was working for the similar goal to create a race of people that you can never say anything bad about. They were all working towards the same doggone goal, and to lower world population of like war fighting aged men. Like look at Europeans now, and compare them to what they used to look like. Like you look at like the French, the English, the Italians. Look at all their like men. Like size large in Europe won't fit children here in the United States. Now there's a little, issue with maybe some of the school lunches and stuff like that, but they're all like frail men for the most part.
Well, they become that way, but you could even say like going through, if you ever go, I remember being at the World War II Museum down in New Orleans, and across from it is a Civil War museum. Man, your mom, folks, if you know something about me, I love museums. Even if I know a lot of it is BS in there, but William and Michelle can tell you all the times when he was growing up that I dragged them to museums, trying to get him to learn something different. And, everybody learns in different ways. But anyway, down there at that museum, when you're sitting here looking at the coat, the jacket of, for example, Stonewall Jackson, or looking at the jacket of Robert E. Lee, and you're saying, good night, that thing couldn't even fit it looks like you couldn't even get a junior high school student into that thing. Yeah, there's a lot of things that changed over time. And then, of course, as things got better and, we got bigger diets, and I'm sure we're much, much different than what we were any period of, in any other period of time in modern history. But anyway, we better get used to getting back into those clothes, because honestly, history doesn't bode well for a society that behaves the way we do. Eric says, Churchill was a gambler. Interesting. Well, Churchill was a lot of things. He was also a druid. Ever hear anything about that? You ever hear why they really bombed Dresden? In Germany, it was all women. You think what they did to Hiroshima and Nagasaki was bad, but if you get down to the brass tacks of why they bombed, I know we're going a little bit esoteric here, but hey, this is well proven. In fact, I'm not even going to tell you. In fact, next time we do this podcast, somebody tell me the real reasons why we bombed Dresden. It wasn't a tactical target. We firebombed the crap out of that thing because, well, part of it we can't prove, but part of it we think we can. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that it was a druid ritual, and Churchill was behind a lot of it. So yeah, there's a whole lot of other history in there. There's things about, all the other people at that time. In fact, let me just go ahead and just drop this bombshell on you real quick. Okay, folks, if you go read the biographies of Roosevelt, Churchill, Stalin, and Eisenhower, what if I told you not one of them mentions a single thing about a Holocaust? Yeah, that's mic drop right there. So I'm just you go ahead and do the research for yourself and go read them for yourself and find out. I ain't saying it didn't happen, but I'm telling you the numbers ain't nowhere even close to what you've been told. That's, like I said, if this was what they said it was, and I can give you all the history as to where the Red Cross numbers, which were the most reliable at that time, have a very, very different story about the deaths. And you'll find out what the real cause of death was in a lot of these camps. Then you'll find out after the war that there were no, if you look at the pictures before and after at places like Auschwitz, there was no stack over there. It was built afterwards by the Soviets. And yes, they were all in on it. Read the work of Anthony Sutton, and you'll find out, probably one of the most intrepid researchers and historians in history. You'll find out that everything you think you know about World War II, World War I, Nazis and the Bolsheviks. In fact, where's their museum? The Bolsheviks in Russia killed more people than Take what we're told Hitler killed and multiply that by about 5, and you're coming close to what the Bolsheviks killed, murdered, and find out who those people were. Yeah, we opened up a whole can of worms, son. We're probably going to get flagged on this one. So
Yeah, I stopped even trying to monetize these live streams.
yeah. There's a whole lot out there, folks. So look, I'm not going to, man, I guess we got to start a whole nother podcast on, because I mean, honestly, I have thought about doing it where we just talk about revisionist history, because that's honestly one of the big passions in my life is I want to know the truth, no matter how much. It was like I was telling your mom the other day, son, we were dropping off trash at the dump, and there's an old guy over there. I won't say his name. He's nice, and he's always got a smile on his face. He's always cheerful in all weather. And every time you go by there, and when you talk to him, you realize maybe the elevator doesn't go all the way to the top, but he's always cheerful, no matter what. And I drove out of there, and I told your mom, I said, man, I wish I could. There's days where I wish I could be that guy. There's days I wish.
Get it.
Yeah. There's days I wish that, because like King Solomon said, when you learn about, the more wisdom you gain, the more sorrow it brings. I'm not saying it exactly, but I think you get the point. And I was like, man, I wish I could be this guy some days. I wish I could just have this smile where I don't want to make too many assumptions about him, but with the brief conversations I've had with him, I know he's not going to be, ambassador to the court of St. James tomorrow. Okay. I know that much with the guy, but at the same time, I'm also wishing there are days when I wish I didn't know some of this stuff. And then I dismiss the, I take it back, because I'd rather know, just like the founding father said, I'd rather know and make preparations for it and prepare those and the people I love around me. And a lot of you people are listening to this podcast right now. Look, I didn't mean to take this to a dark place. I was going to anyway when I was talking about biohacking your life, but not a dark place, but basically how to inoculate yourself from, the things that they're doing. And, try to, put together a list of all the things that you could be doing, but maybe we can save that for next time. But yeah, so some of these shows, when we go a little bit sideways, they're some of the best ones, or at least people tell me they are. Look, it's crazy world out there right now, folks. And I'm going to try to keep it as real as I can. And, whether we'll be here on YouTube for much longer, I do not know. I'm just going to keep saying it the way I know how to say it. And consequences be damned. I really don't care. I'm really beyond caring at this point. And I wish other people would speak up, because the reason they don't is they are afraid. I get not everybody is going to be as well versed on this stuff, but I have been told by others that do this work that they are afraid of losing their channel. I'm like, okay. Yeah. You're afraid of losing your kids? How about you're afraid of losing your country? You're afraid of any of those things? Anything to add, son?
Yeah, don't be afraid of like the judgment from people who have no control over the eternity of your life and the length of it. Like the people's judgment, human judgment, does not even kind of matter. So don't pay attention to it. If it's the right thing to do, it's the right thing to do. If it's the wrong thing to do, then it's the wrong thing to do. There's only one like judgment you should even be kind of concerned with, and that's from the Father, not from people.
Perfectly stated. Fear not him which is able to kill the body, which is not able to kill the soul, but fear him that can kill both body and soul in hell. Yeah, so a wonderful way to end the show. I want to give a shout out again to Renewed Homestead for doing all the chat work out there, and everybody out there with us live. Look, y'all, till next time, you know the deal. Stay alert,
stay alive.
I'm moving with the truth. Feeling that just who's got the answers? All we need to do, listen to the earth, they got us through. Let's see the change, watch the world spin from the small is proud. To harmony begin in the cycle of life. For the magic's alive. Tune it to